Coming to you from deep within the swamps of the southeastern United States, this is a paranormal podcast unlike one you've ever experienced before. This is the Westgate Paranormal Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Westgate Paranormal Podcast. Today is Sunday, October 21st, 2018, and I am your host, Eric.
And I'm Amanda.
And tonight, I know we've been a little behind on some of our podcasts. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and tonight we're going to talk about some of that. Recently, we just finished an overnight investigation at Moon River Brewing Company in Savannah, Georgia, with the Savannah Ghost Research Society, and we've done it there before. It's awesome investigation, awesome place.
Yeah,
we get full access to the building. It was a really nice group of people this time. Also, as far as everybody was respectful of each other's group and cross-contamination with,
oh yeah,
sound and all that. Sometimes when you have a bigger group, that can become an issue with recording audio and things, is either not marking on the recording when you hear somebody walking or talking outside in the hall or the floor below you or something like that. And this time it seems like everything went really smoothly with all that, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we had one of our listeners and one of my friends, Bree, with us on
Yes.
the investigation. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun too.
That was her first investigation.
We got some really good evidence too. Obviously, I'm not gonna go over everything and put it inside the podcast, but a lot of EVP evidence, as well as using Echovox. We got lots of really, really good responses with Echovox.
Yeah.
So
That's the only thing I like using anymore. I don't know.
I agree. Like
it doesn't offend the ears.
yeah, we used the Spirit Box for a little bit, but it is really loud, and for a lot of people, the white noise, the static can get really annoying as it's going through the frequencies. So
Yeah, that thing drives me crazy. I don't know. Like, the minute it comes on, I, lose my mind.
yeah. Like with, what's his face? Shane and Ryan on BuzzFeed.
Yes, I feel the exact same way. It's awful.
But I'm noticing that Ryan's also getting very annoyed by it. You noticed when we were watching the episode earlier today? The
Oh,
new season of
yeah.
Winchester House. Every time he turned it on, he cringed, or he said something about it or whatever.
It really is. It is it's the worst. I don't know. I feel like I'm just very thankful somebody came up with something else. We'll put it that way.
Yes, yeah. One of them, I mean, you can, as you turn it on, as soon as it comes on, the newer models, you can hold down either the up or lower scan and it gets rid of that, but still it not completely. So
no.
So what did you like the best about our investigation? What did you have the most fun with?
I don't know, the Echovox. I mean, it's really one of those, once we get everything together, I definitely want to put it up so everybody can hear what we got. That makes all the world to me, getting to hear some of that, especially when it's actually intelligent responses.
Oh yes, very, very much so. There were times when Jim was asking about colors and stuff, and it started going through colors.
Yeah.
And even replying back to him, quite a few times with his own name, so it was directed right back at him as he was asking the questions and stuff. So.
Yeah. I think the best kind of part of that investigation was probably actually getting the name Hazel.
Yes.
Because that was the most clear EVP I've ever heard. in my life.
And we got it more than once. We got it several times.
Right. So now I really want to like go back and do an investigation again and actually try to talk to Hazel again. It was really like that EVP was insane.
Yeah, it was. It was very, very clear, very loud. And it's funny because like in the recording, anytime those were coming across, like everybody else responded to what was being said. So you're hearing other people in the room repeating what they're hearing.
Right.
So,
and I like that. And I think for people who have never done an investigation before, having Echovox on your phone to do an investigation is like, I think it's the best thing to make somebody more interested in the investigation.
right. Yeah.
Just because like with the spirit box or whatever, it's so loud, it's so annoying. And then when you're just doing EVPs, you don't get that automatic response, and sometimes even in playback you don't hear anything until you get home with headphones.
Yep.
So I really like Echovox for like the first time people going out there for investigations, because you almost get that instant gratification.
Yeah, you really do. And that's the thing, like once I used it for a couple of them in the group because they had never seen it before or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't really even have to explain it a whole lot. And so everybody's like, wow, because we started getting instant responses with that when we weren't really getting much with the spirit box at all. And so then later on, when we went upstairs and I asked, if people wanted to use the Echovox again, everybody's like, oh, yeah. So, and I know several people said that they were getting the app because of that was the first time they'd seen it in use like that.
Yeah,
and they were so impressed with it.
People think it's really cool, and it is really cool. Like I said, it's my favorite thing to use on an investigation ever.
Yes. I totally agree.
It's just neat. So, all right, so we've done Moon River Brewery recently. Where's somebody somewhere that you really want to investigate that you have not? Like if you could go anywhere and investigate anywhere.
Wow. There's quite a few places. I mean,
well, name a few.
You mean like places just in our local area or
anywhere
in general?
In the world?
The Stanley Hotel for one.
Yeah.
Most definitely a Stanley Hotel. I would actually like to get the chance to investigate at the Lalaurie House, but that's not something that's really feasible.
No. But yes.
Yeah. We did La Petite Theater, my brother and I, years and years ago down in New Orleans. We were actually supposed to meet up with a guy down there who lived in Metairie, right outside of the French Quarter area outside of New Orleans. And for whatever reason, we ended up not meeting up with him at all. So my brother and I just decided to go, and that's one of the places we were supposed to go anyway. It was the La Petite Theater. So
that's rad. There's
a lot of places in New Orleans I would like to, honestly. New Orleans, like St. Augustine and Savannah, they're all kind of their own little stuck-in-time towns, so to speak.
Right.
So there's a lot of history with all of it that I'd really like to go into.
I've still never been. I want to go.
Soon. We'll be going soon. Yes. And strangely enough, I believe it's the Merrimack Caverns, where Jesse James holed up out in the caves. I'd like to investigate there. I don't know why, but ever since I was a little kid, it was something that always I had a draw to, because I like caves in general. But I remember anytime we would travel and stuff through the Midwest, you'd always see these big signs or signs painted on the sides of people's barns, visit Merrimack Caverns and stuff like that. So I'm sure with all of the use it had over the years with outlaws hiding out and stuff, it wasn't just, one person, that there's probably interesting things in there. I would think.
I would think so.
Let's see. Of course, some of the other ones, the bigger places, the well-known places throughout the country that I haven't been, that I'd like to go, that kind of goes without saying. There was a house, I want to say it was maybe Pacific Grove Beach or Monterey area when I was a little kid and we lived out there. And I remember it always seemed very strange and haunted to me. I, for some reason, even used to have dreams about this place after we weren't there anymore. And in my dreams, the building looked even more haunted, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I believe it was originally part of Essalon, which was like a sort of hippie self-help guru sort of
That
commune.
sounds fitting.
Yeah, back in the day. And it became like a world-known place. Like all kinds of actors and everything went there and stuff. And it became like a hub during the New Age movement when it was really pushing through. But as a kid, I remember being next to it and seeing it and thinking it looked like just a creepy old haunted place. And from what I remember, and it could be just totally a made-up memory at this point because that was so long ago. But there's a lot of places along the coast like that with the old Victorian homes, even in San Francisco and stuff in California, that I think would be fun. So,
yeah.
there's an eerie sort of quality about certain areas out there along the beach.
You want to know where I want to go?
That's what I was waiting for.
I definitely want to do the Stanley Hotel.
Yes.
I just think that I don't know. It seems like it'd be fun.
Yeah, and being like built into the mountain like that too, with those, stone tunnels basically in the basement and everything.
Yeah. I think I'd really, really like to do the Winchester.
Yes, that would be cool.
That one, I don't know. There's something so weird about, obviously there's something weird about the house.
On purpose.
Yeah. But like there's just, the whole story is just, because there's so many stories.
Right. Yeah, there is.
That, I don't know. There's got to be something about it, is kind of what I'm getting to, I guess. Because that's the thing, like, when something has so many different stories, but all of them are just equally as creepy as the other one, like, there's something going on.
Yeah, definitely.
There has to be. I don't know.
It's that house has always intrigued me. Not just, obviously it's like what we were saying, it sits on like 20 acres or something. It's some crazy amount of space it takes up at this point. But the house, that the Queen Anne Victorian style houses.
It's gorgeous. It's wacky as shit,
Yeah.
but it's gorgeous. But I like weird houses.
Yes.
If it were real, I would want to investigate the Hill House. But it's not real. I guess,
yeah.
It's sort of, you said it, they said it was based on...
Yeah, I read an article that it was based on this book that these, I want to say there were 3 kids had experienced. It was back in 1901. I believe it was called An Adventure. And they actually went out to the Palace of Versailles, and they were treading away from the palace looking for some barn or something like that out in the woods, and they got turned around and came upon this old decrepit abandoned house that was on the grounds that they owned, the palace grounds. So they apparently first saw a apparition of a woman in one of the upstairs windows, like shaking a sheet out the window, I think it was. And then later on, they came upon several men who were gardeners, and they were all wearing small tricorn pointed hats. And when they saw the kids walking up, they, I guess, got mad. They pointed. They said, "Get out of here or leave."
That's nuts.
Yeah. And then another part of it was when they came upon the building, the entrance, one of them described it as being like a tableau vivant of people there, like a family portrait just painted standing in the doorway. And that was the rest of the residents of that actual house or something. So that's apparently what it was based on, loosely in some way.
Dude, it was that show was crazy good. I don't want to, like, in case anybody hasn't watched The Haunting of Hill House, I don't want to ruin anything.
Yeah.
But seriously, that has to be one of my favorite things that has come out recently.
I totally agree. That is one of the best, and I am super kind of, I don't want to say snobby or picky, but I guess I kind of am picky about horror movies because I'm always trying to find something that stirs in me like it did when I was a little kid, and it used to scare the hell out of me.
Right.
And I can just never find that anymore.
See, and I feel bad because when people ask me if something's scary, I mean, most of the time I say no.
Yeah.
And I had someone ask me if it was scary or not, and I said no because
It's not scary to you?
It was not scary to me at any point. I loved it. I thought it was friggin' amazing, and I don't know. I just haven't seen a show put out that well. But anyway, like, it didn't scare me. So if anybody wants my opinion on if a movie's scary or not, you should probably just skip it. Because
it's not going to be scary to you.
Yeah.
You're desensitized.
I am. I don't know. Unless, like, they hurt an animal in it, because then I just won't watch it. I've actually made you turn off movies.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with it. Like, if it's just there was something we were watching, it was about a serial killer or something, and like right from the beginning it was like him killing a dog or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was just pointless violence.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff. That stuff, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, all right.
That's kind of how I am, I guess, too, like with certain things, because what I don't really find scary anymore, other people apparently still do.
Yeah.
Like, on my tours, I show a picture of an apparition, and some people will, like, freak the hell out. And I'm like, this is so cool, this is a full-body apparition of something. And they're like, oh, no, get it away, It's
not going to jump out at you.
I know, but it's funny in a way, but it's weird because it's like I get excited over it, and I don't process it beforehand in my head that some people do actually get freaked out by it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like even at the investigation the other night with people being like, "Oh, touch so and so," and they're like, "Oh, don't you dare!" It's like, I mean, I've had my hair pulled.
Yeah.
It's really not that big of a deal. Like, I guarantee if something was evil in any of the places that we went into, they wouldn't constantly let investigators in.
Right. Yeah, if people were getting hurt and stuff all the time, or getting sick or scratched, it wouldn't be something that was available like it is.
Right.
Because there have been places like that in the past, and they stopped it,
So since we're getting a little closer to Halloween and people are into watching and all that spooky shit, so do you think that, say, somebody buys an old haunted house, like they know, like the investigators have been in or whatever and blah,
right?
Like it actually is haunted. So say that they buy a haunted house because it has that reputation, and say they turn it into a haunted house.
Right.
Do you think that makes the house more haunted because of the energy being put into it?
I personally believe that it probably does, yes. You are literally taking a place that already has activity, whether it be, benevolent or malevolent activity, either way, and then you kind of funnel that in to exploit that purpose, so to speak, making it into a public, like, haunted house. I think you're really like feeding all that energy into it even more. And it becomes a portal almost, because then it starts attracting anything around, saying that it's a welcome thing, so to speak.
Right.
So whatever their intentions may be.
Well, because that's like the thing what Ghost Hunters went on with like Post Malone.
Right.
And it was an old
Ghost Adventures.
slaughter. Yeah.
And there was another one. I want to say it was him 2 years ago. It may have been another one. I honestly don't remember, where it was the same sort of thing. It was a haunted house that had previously been a nursing home. And then after it was abandoned.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was abandoned for a while, and apparently it was really haunted, and the guy bought it to showcase it and turn it into a haunted house. And apparently there was a lot of activity there that was really malevolent and really aggressive, that most of the people that worked for him ended up leaving and stuff, because they were getting freaked out just being employees there in a haunted house, because real stuff was going on.
I don't understand what would possess somebody to buy one of those and turn it into a haunted house. I don't know. Like,
Make it into a haunted bed and breakfast.
Like, I could get it if, like, okay, the house was haunted, but, like, the ghosts in there just, like, threw pillows normally.
Yeah.
But not, like, an insane asylum.
Right.
Like, that's just bad juju.
Yeah,
like,
and
you're asking for trouble at that point, in my opinion, because of everything people have been through in there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, a couple of little, like, redecorating ghosts, fine. Like, turn that into a haunted house. That could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they might put props somewhere else. Like, that's kind of creepy. Awesome. But, you know, shoving people downstairs and scratching and biting and all of that stuff, that's not cool.
Right.
That's how you get sued. It really is.
It really is, yeah.
Because, like, you could go in as, like, a patron and walk through and get fucking bit by a ghost, and you think one of the fucking employees bit you.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that.
You know? Like,
yeah.
That's how you get sued. I don't understand what makes people do dumb
you
things.
You want to get sued? Because that's how you get sued.
It is how you get sued.
There was a mansion in Indianapolis, and I don't for the life of me remember the name of it. I had been there several times, and it was purportedly a very haunted mansion. It was a open to the public sort of museum and stuff, and they turned it into a haunted house mainly on the grounds around Halloween time.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, they basically they had like these back and forth sort of tunnels that they just built this whole sort of structure out on the grounds of it. So you're there at the building, but almost everything's taking place outside. So it was really, really cool too.
That sounds neat. I always wanted to do like a haunted like maze.
Yeah.
I think that would be unnerving and super fun.
Yes. You talking about like a corn maze or
No, like The Shining.
Oh, like a big hedge maze.
Yeah, like The Shining hedge maze. Like, that seems like that would be fun.
I'd never find my way out. I would be the ending scene with Jack Nicholson.
I mean, I'm sure that they would have people like guiding you. Because I don't think that would work out well to, like, let people run around all willy-nilly. Because, yeah, you would. So you charge $10 and say somebody gets through in 5 minutes, but you got some asshole walking around in there for 3 hours. You know, like, it's not... You would have to have a guide.
Yeah. They could just use a drone nowadays. Like, follow the drone, sir. Follow the drone. It will lead you out.
Nah, I need people. Like, I need people to... You need that guide to help creep you out. I really think that.
Like how the haunted hayrides, like the person pulling the hayride is also telling you the stories.
Yeah,
and stuff.
It's kind of like what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, I do have a kind of a fun one, and I don't know why I thought of this. But, do you think body parts can be haunted? Like, organ donation, like...
There's, I mean, that's sort of a thing, sort of a theme. What was it John Carpenter's Body Bags? Or
Yeah,
was
and
it
like
Body Bags or Body
Lawnmower
Parts?
Man,
Yeah.
right?
And then they even did a spoof of it on The Simpsons when Homer got a
Yeah.
hair implant that used to be Snake's hair.
Yeah.
And he turned into a robber and everything like Snake was. I don't know.
Do you think that that's like a thing?
Like genetic memory that's, or whatever you want to call it, that could be in the body part and then it sort of invades into your own personal body after you get it.
Yeah, I don't know.
affects you.
I already feel myself like wavering on that line of like, I mean, it could. And then the other part of me is like, no.
It really makes me think of the episode of Rick and Morty with Morty getting the injection when they had gone to that sort of Mad Max universe.
Oh, his one arm?
His one giant arm that used to be the arm of like this gladiator cage fighter guy.
Yeah.
And he went around killing people.
I mean, I wouldn't go to like that extent, but like, okay, just for example, like say somebody gets a heart transplant.
Right.
Okay. And say the person was extremely happy before all of that happens.
Right.
And then after they have the heart transplant, like say they have a switch of temperament.
Yeah.
Do you think that would that be considered
I would think so. I mean,
haunted? Because
it's affecting them, It's affecting them a way that they normally would not be affected.
Would you even call it a haunted body part?
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like there's got to be a word for it. And I don't feel like haunted body part would be...
There's always been that connotation, I think, throughout history with body parts in that way. Like hunters, like they would
eat the
take
heart of
the heart of the, the animal to gain its strength or, stuff like that. So I think maybe there's some sort of energy that's imbued within it from the person it came from originally. Probably it's got like a memory of them, so to speak, if you want to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only way I could think of really explaining it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What
no,
were you
I
gonna say?
I was like, well, what if you were in an accident and you get your arm severed and there was an arm transplant and the guy that used to own it was a chronic masturbator or something? You know what I mean?
That would suck and I guess be all right. I don't know, because I feel like going from never having that problem to having constantly have that problem might make life a lot harder.
It makes me think of the guy from SOA and the Mayans.
The ones that cut off his fingers.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
I was giggling at my own thing. So when how you say when bad taxidermy is done, do you think the ghost of that animal haunts whoever owns it? But if they do you think they now look like they're bad taxidermy or how they used to look?
I'm the firm believer of whatever you're wearing when you die is your ghost outfit for eternity. So however the animal looked,
they would look fine.
Yeah, I would think.
Do you think some permanently look run over? That's awful.
It's not. No, I mean their last actual look.
But that's created after
creature.
they're already dead, so it wouldn't count.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a possibility. We've
I
seen
really
enough
want
horror
them to
movies.
come back as their bad taxidermy.
I think they probably could.
Could you imagine a haunted Utah werewolf?
God. I wouldn't want to be around it for very long. And it could be that they're just a shell, like a statue or a doll too. Maybe anything. And the more grotesque they look, the more they attract more negative things, because we all know, like, sympathetically or symbolically, that, like, the more grotesque something is to us, it's naturally, we fear it more. It's more evil to us, more demonic or something. You know what I mean?
We would have the nicest haunted taxidermy ever because I would love it to death.
I bad taxidermy. Okay, so in Texas, the Texas Lottery, I'm sure you remember commercials. Their little mascot for the Texas Lottery was a jackalope.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've always wanted a jackalope mounted.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I like the more creative stuff.
Well, my thought is a jackalope is the mascot for the Texas Lottery. And if I had a mounted jackalope head, then it would be haunted with something that would tell me the lottery numbers, right? Doesn't it work like that?
No.
Okay.
No. Not today, I don't think.
It would just get glowing red eyes and try to kill me with its antlers.
Yeah.
That would be my luck.
What was that on? Was that like, it wasn't America's Funniest Home Videos. The As Fast Can Be, You'll Never Catch Me, the Jackalope. It was Dave Coulier.
I really don't know.
Which I keep bringing him up. Like, I've brought him up like 3 times in the past week, and that was really weird for me.
Yeah, I don't know what that was from.
I know it was his voice, and I know he did it. I just don't remember what show. I don't know. Anyway, I'll figure it out later.
It was one of the Minions movies.
No. This was like from the 90s.
I honestly don't know. I don't remember if I've seen it or not even. I don't know.
I'm disappointed. I don't have my phone anywhere near me, so I can't look it up. So anyway, back on track.
Back on track.
So, what has been your best paranormal investigation experience?
That's a hard one. I've had, I want to say, more higher points in, I won't even call them investigations, but just like spontaneously, like, hey, let's go here and do an EVP session, that type of thing.
Right.
My neighbor, when I used to live in my old house, the one that was murdered by his wife that I talked about in a previous podcast, I went outside his property not too long after, he had been murdered there, and just did an EVP session, and I got clear responses of him, his voice, because I had known him, I talked to him and everything.
Right.
And I got clear responses of him, and he was basically directing it towards his wife, like I told her to mind her own business or something like that. It was very aggressive sounding, like any time we got a response. And to me, that was like, wow, because this is somebody that I knew who had just died living next door to me, killed by his wife,
Right.
And I was getting responses from him. And then also when my friend Bridget died in a car crash, it was a few miles away from where I lived, but I had been hanging out with her earlier that night. And I had gone home early. We were all out at a club, and I had gone home earlier, and she stayed. And so when I was home, I was still awake, and it was like 3:34 in the morning, and I heard sirens off in the distance. And it wasn't until the next day that I realized the sirens I heard was them going to where she crashed and died.
Yeah.
So I went back out there and did EVP sessions quite a few times, and got several responses from her and her voice. And one of them that really stands out to me the most was one of the first things that I was asking about her being there and, how she died and everything. Her response was, "Oh, it's a tree." Just plain as day. And that's, she ran off the end of a road at a T and ran into the woods, and her car hit a tree, and that's what killed her.
Right.
So that's one of my favorites, honestly, as far as just little sort of mini sessions like that, because you can pretty much do them anywhere,
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed investigating at Ripley's museum. That's, I think, one of my high points, because we were the first people ever to come in and do an investigation back in 2001. So even though other people have gone in there since then and they kind of marketed it, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's even a group that's on Amazon or Netflix that did a whole feature-length documentary of them investigating Ripley's. And
Yeah.
to me, what I was seeing, there was a lot of theatrics, I think, involved. I didn't even watch the whole thing. Maybe a third or a half of it. Just because it got to be certain points where like people were being thrown down and like convulsing and getting angry with each other, and a lot of it looked to me very staged. So, but I really did enjoy Ripley's a whole lot. We got a lot of interesting stuff as far as, especially with the interaction upstairs in the old penthouse suite before it became the museum. When it was still a hotel, and that's where a couple girls had died being trapped in a fire up there.
Right.
And that's the clips that I have of that investigation on my YouTube channel too, is of that with the curator and the assistant curator of the museum up there, and they're seeing things out of the corner of their eye and like moving their head and pointing on the video, and we're seeing like pulsing orbs going by their head.
That's
as they're
crazy.
looking. They're seeing it with their own eyes. So I think that was a really, really cool one. That's one of my favorites.
What's your worst?
My worst is probably the place where we left the equipment, honestly. That was the scariest, to me anyway, personally. And that was, I think I had talked about it in one of our previous podcasts.
Very briefly, I think.
It was a private residence. Actually not too far from where we now live, just a couple miles away. And it was a girl living in a duplex with her 2 young daughters, and the duplex was like L-shaped, and they originally had lived in one section of it, and there were so many things happening there that they thought if they moved to the other section of the duplex, it would actually stop.
Right.
And it really didn't. It just continued, and in some cases even got worse. So when we went there to set up to do the investigation, like all of our equipment started failing, batteries were draining and stuff. It took us a long time to get everything set up, working like it should. So then once we did that, we basically all kind of felt this sensation of like the room going stale, like you couldn't breathe almost.
Yeah.
And that prickly static feeling all over your body. And we basically all kind of looked at each other and were like, we cannot stay here. Let's just leave right now. And so we did. We left the equipment set up and everything, and we didn't stay in there with it. So
Y'all went back for your equipment though, right?
yeah, we did. We went back for our equipment, and strangely, we got almost nothing on all the video and audio and stuff from that night. It was our walkthrough investigations when we would just take pictures, and there was one old dresser that was there that was left in the old part of the house where they did live.
Yeah.
Because the girl said that her daughter was afraid of the dresser, saying that the little boy that was in the house, sometimes he would crawl in and out of the dresser and things like that.
No thanks.
And there wasn't even any drawers in it or anything like that, but it was giving off an EMF field. The closer you got to it, it would, the EMF would go higher. And as we were sticking our EMF meters inside where the drawers should be, it was spiking inside the dresser. And we physically moved that thing around the room. We looked to make sure it was just an old antique wooden dresser. That's all it was.
That's crazy.
With kind of with a big mirror on the back of it. But we got a lot of pictures there of a black line going through the photos, basically telling us you're not going to take a picture of us. When the little girl was saying that the boy was playing with her hair, we actually got pictures of an orb on top of her head with her hair sort of wrapped around the side of the orb like static electricity, pulling her hair up.
That's nuts.
So, and that was, she had two of them. One was still, really, really young, not even able to talk or anything yet. And then the other one was probably 4 or 5, something like that. And the older one is the one, she would wake up screaming at night saying that there was blood on her bed and on the walls, and that there was a man standing by her bed, and the little boy in the house that she talked to, and she was friends with him, but sometimes he would get angry with her and push her down and pinch her and things like that. And
wow.
So, and we physically saw a cup fly off the kitchen table across the kitchen and slam into the wall when we were in the living room. Nobody was even near it. So.
See, that's still one I know I've said it before. Still don't believe until I ever see it happen.
Right. Well, and that was in the middle of the day, too, which was crazy because we were just basically, that was like when we were interviewing her, asking about stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, right there, there's proof. We're like, all right, okay. And then when we walked outside after we had set everything up, too, there were just all these feral cats in her yard. Just all, like, probably 15, 20 cats just hanging out in her yard, all meowing, like just wild neighborhood cats.
That's crazy.
And that was like right after we walked out to walk into the other section of the house, saying we're going to leave everything set up. And we started hearing this noise outside. I'm like, what the hell? It was kind of like the scene from Sleepwalkers, the movie.
Yeah.
The son and the mother looked outside and there were all these cats because the cats would come to like kill these beings,
right?
So they would set up traps and stuff like that to kill the cats.
Oh, that's
what
a
it made
movie.
me think of. It was just crazy.
That's nuts. I don't know. I've never been in a situation like that, so I don't even know how I would react. I mean, I've been on investigations where I feel the pain of something that happened to someone there.
Right. You're very empathic.
Right. But I've never ever felt in danger.
Right.
In any situation. I've felt nervous before, but it's like a little bit of like nervous excitement, or it could just be nervous energy, but I don't know. I've never been in a situation where I'm like, get me the fuck out here. Now, I've been in real life situations where I've said that.
Yeah.
But I have never felt like I was ever going to be harmed in a situation while investigating.
Yeah, I can't say that I really have while investigating. I mean, I've been uncomfortable in places.
Well, you just said you left that place.
Well, no, I'm saying, other than that one situation.
Okay.
I've never really felt that. And that's why we did what we did there, because it was just so unnatural. Like, none of us had ever experienced that before. And to make me say, I am not staying here. We are not supposed to be here. Like, I can't even put into words, like, if I felt like I would be attacked, or if I felt like just something really bad would happen, or just this overwhelming energy just pushing me out. I can't even put my finger on it. It was just that feeling like we cannot be in here any longer. You're not welcome.
No, I mean, I guess I have felt that, but it's just more of like, just remove yourself from the room type thing. Like,
I don't need to be in here right now.
Yeah. Like, I definitely got that feeling when we were like getting all the equipment together at the end of the night in Savannah.
Yeah.
When I was on the 3rd floor, I definitely did not feel like I should have been up there by myself.
And see, with me, it's always right at the top of those stairs as we're going up to into the 3rd floor, making that turn.
That's where I just feel uncomfortable. That's where I hurt, when I go, when I do investigate there. But no, like that 3rd floor, that room up there, when I was trying to get the wires together for the cameras and everything, I heard shuffling, and it wasn't like playful.
Right.
It was definitely like please get out. Like,
kind of like
I'm gonna
making
shove you
myself
out
heard as I'm coming towards you.
Yeah. So that I guess like that's the most uncomfortable, and it was still like, all right, dude, I'll get out. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. You know, I came downstairs and I was like, I gotta have somebody with me up here. Like,
Right.
and that's as far as it went. I still went back upstairs. So, but yeah, I've never had one of those situations. I don't know. I don't know if I'm looking forward to having one day, or if it's just like I would be fine if that never happened.
Show yourself.
No, I'm not gonna go crazy. Like, that's one thing that I don't like on investigations, like when people like antagonize.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it. I feel like everything in there, good or bad, should be respected.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's the only time I get a little cranky when I'm watching shows, is when they start
When they really
they're
push
just
it.
being dicks to be dicks. Like,
Yeah.
and especially I hate it coming out of people's mouths who say that they were bullied, and then they sit there and they bully.
Yeah.
You know, it bothers me. I don't know.
And bully the people on their own team when they
Right.
don't want to go do it.
Right? That
Yeah.
really, I don't know. That just, it makes me sad inside. It makes me a sad panda, if you will.
Don't be a sad panda. Yeah, there'll be times like when I'm doing an investigation, if I know the person that I'm trying to contact was aggressive or is aggressive now, you know, in their interactions with the living, I guess you can say, that I won't antagonize, but I'll get kind of gruff back, like, you know, hey, you're such a tough guy, why aren't you talking to me, or something like that. Like, and that's really rare when you hear me doing that. It's usually just like, why are you being so quiet? You know, you talk other times, why aren't you talking now? But when you get like really pushy, like, come at me, you know, like,
Come at me, bro.
yeah, come at me, bro. You don't ever really see me doing that. And it's not out of fear. It's like you said, it's out of respect.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't, the one thing that sometimes bugs me, but I'm very weird about, like, when I'm in an investigation on, like, sound and people, like, I get really super sensitive to
Right.
things. But I always feel the need to be like, none of the ghosts are deaf. Like, you don't have to yell, because I have been in investigations where people do that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like, you have to remember that if you're doing it in like teams or groups, which, you know, the situation I was in was not that, but you know, you have to be respectful of the other people around you.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, just remember they're not deaf.
Yeah.
You don't have to yell, you don't have to scream. I think that's one of my pet peeves, I guess. I don't know.
It is. I notice people do that a lot with EVP sessions when I would take them to certain places. You know?
Yeah.
It's like we'd be talking, but then when they go to ask a question, it's like they do
They
that really,
scream it.
like, scream it and talk like, you know, like you said, like somebody's deaf. Sometimes they would even ask questions like this when they were talking loud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you doing that? You know?
So that brings up a good question that I just thought of.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that, say, for instance, when the Spanish came over and, you know, settled St. Augustine and passed, and say that they were haunting the area, you know, whatever, do you think, like, over time they learn English? Or do you think they still only speak Spanish? Because I feel like sometimes you can get, like, German, you know, EVPs, like, in German. You can get Spanish, you know.
Right.
Like, do you think that they actually learn it over time, or?
That's something that people ask me a lot, strangely, and it's something that I've thought about a lot, and I can't really say that I know one way or the other, because we've gotten EVPs in other languages.
Right.
We've gotten EVPs in English with an accent. So, yeah, I mean, with sometimes the EVPs that we're getting,
Right.
just how did I put it the other day? Somebody asked me the same thing. My opinion, I think a lot of the times is if we're talking to a spirit that does not speak our language, or didn't in life, maybe they're just not responding to us at all because they can't
true.
understand us.
No, that would make sense. I just, in my head, I feel like whether you've been like a ghost for 10 years or like 100, if you spoke a different language when you died, if literally that is all you fucking heard was another language, I feel like you probably would have had time to pick it up.
I think,
because if you have intelligent enough ghosts that respond,
right,
like they actually answer the questions that you're asking, why wouldn't they in turn pick up another language if that wasn't their first one? That's why, like, sometimes you can get EVPs with like an accent,
right? And that makes sense, and I think that's another really plausible theory behind it, is that once they've passed into spirit, if you think about it, like how long they've been there, or just the fact that new information is available to them, maybe they already know any way to communicate any different language they want to speak in, just because of the fact they're now a spirit,
I mean, yeah, that could totally be it too.
So
I feel like if I went to Germany,
right,
and did an EVP session in English, I wouldn't get a whole lot.
Right.
I feel like if you were over there, say you were an American and you died in like Spain,
right,
like I feel as though eventually you would pick up Spanish.
Yep.
Like I don't know.
Cultural immersion.
Yeah, because in my head, I feel like that would make sense. It would be the same in death as it would be in life. Like if suddenly you were dropped off into the middle of Brazil.
Yeah.
You
would eventually learn to communicate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. It really does. Because I've even heard, there was another podcast I was listening to when they were talking about this with the EVPs, and they got EVPs from the same spirit, first in French, and then later it also spoke in English. But even when it spoke in English, it had a French accent. So you could tell it was the same person talking both times, but they were naturally a native French speaker.
That's pretty cool.
So, and I can't remember what podcast that was, but it was a few years back.
That's really neat. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that. I mean, I've heard when they've had like an accent. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you've heard my recordings when I've come back at work and stuff, or even at Moon River the other day, there was one with a very definite accent that sounded Scottish.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm trying to think. Well, there was one you did bring home, one EVP when you were in the antique shop.
Yes.
That where they actually spoke German. I was like, oh, they're speaking German. And you're like, why would anybody be speaking German in there? And then you found you had another person on your tour the next night that said something about it, too.
Yeah, the very next night, a guy and his daughter were on my tour, and way later in the tour, she started asking about that, about, them speaking in other languages during EVPs. And I said, well, yeah, recently we've been getting EVPs of a man speaking in German. And her dad looked at me and she's like, weren't you just asking questions in German? He's like, yeah, when we were in the antique shop, I was asking questions, but I felt compelled to ask them in German for some reason. So, and that's not his native tongue. He just knows how to speak German.
Right.
So he said he felt like he needed to ask questions in German. And that was just a really strange sort of twist that the night before I was getting, EVPs of a German man speaking.
Right.
So it was just kind of, it all played in really well together. It was really crazy.
I really like people's when they listen to their internal clocks and things and they actually respond and interact, and they
Right.
don't even know what they're doing until later.
They've just got this sort of urge to speak in German,
Right.
you know, and there's a reason for it, obviously, if you're getting that sort of impulse in a situation like that.
So with people like feeling things and knowing things, how do you feel about having mediums on investigations?
I don't have a problem with it. I think a lot of it is more who they are. Like, I don't even know how to say it. You know, as long as they're a true medium is what I mean.
Right.
And how they interact with the people in the group, sort of their presence, I guess you can
Right.
say. When they just sort of come in and take control and they don't interact with people at all.
That's one thing. Yeah. I think that if you're going to have one in a group of, especially when you have like new investigators or people who are just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
I feel like it's good to introduce that person if they are going to interact as a medium. Like, introduce them to everybody. So that way,
Right.
like, because, I mean, I've met some in the past that can be a little overbearing, and if you don't know, then that can definitely bring a bad time about.
Yeah, definitely. And especially in a group setting, in an investigation with the public. I mean, if you get a medium that's there, and you're split up in groups and that medium comes into your group, she should at least introduce herself or say, hey, I'm here. This is what I plan on doing. Not just come in and basically take over the investigation for everyone while
Right.
she's there. Like, she's supposed to be the center of attention at that point. Because I do believe mediums play a very big role in paranormal investigations. This is a contentious issue with some people because they believe that to investigate a paranormal location, it should all be scientific, which to me is probably one of the most ironic or even oxymoronic, I guess I should say, sort of attitudes to have, because you're basically saying we are trying to find proof of existence of something beyond this life, but we can only use scientific instruments that are proven, that are tested. We know
Right.
exactly what they do. There could be no anecdotal experience that can be relied on as actual evidence. So a lot of them will have nothing at all to do with mediums because of that, because it's a personal experience.
But I know that there have been times where there's been a medium there and there's no audible EVP to like everybody else.
Right.
But they get a response and they say the response after the EVP has come through.
Right.
Once you're
Exactly.
playing it back.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I'm totally for it.
I am too.
I really am. I'm a big fan.
I am too, completely.
As
you
long as
know.
it's not dramatic.
Right.
Like, if they're in it and they're really doing their job, and you know they're there for a purpose and not to like showboat.
Right. And that's, I think, mediums who are genuine mediums who are doing that, who are in contact with that part of themselves, they don't need to, they have no desire to be theatrical.
Right.
Because
There's no need for it.
Right. There's absolutely no need for it. If it is a medium who is doing a show sort of medium, then more likely, even though they may have those abilities, they may also not have it, and it's just a stage presence.
Right.
You know.
And I know for a fact that, especially with like mediums,
Mm-hmm.
you can have on days and you can have off days.
Oh, yeah.
So you could go into something and not get anything.
Right.
Or you could go in that very next night and it can be overwhelming.
It's that whole cyclic thing we spoke of in another podcast. It is, I think it's just like, if you're just using equipment and that's it, it's the same way. It's going to come in waves. You can't snap your fingers and say, okay, we're here, show yourselves, you know, and expect something.
Right. And I think that's a big thing for people who have never been on an investigation that want to go on one. I feel like it's a really good thing to know. It's not, investigating is not like Scooby-Doo. It's not like the TV show Supernatural. you know, things just don't happen like that.
Right.
So, you know, you have to be patient, and a lot of it is going to be after you go home and you review things is when you see stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people are just, they're so expectant of, like, shit to fly off of walls. And
I mean, because, you know, a lot of the shows sensationalizing those aspects of it, I mean, it happens, but you can't expect every time you go into a place, or especially if you've never been on an overnight investigation, to go into a place and it's just a hotbed that, like, the second you turn something on, you're getting EVPs, you're getting REM pods going off, you're seeing things on the cameras. It takes a long time sometimes for anything to manifest at all. It takes a lot of energy for them to do it.
right.
And it comes, like we were saying, sometimes it comes in waves. You may walk into a place and get some really good evidence in the first 5 minutes you're there, and then you may not get anything else for another 2 hours or something.
Yeah,
at all.
I think they have good days and bad days just like we do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, you could go in one night and one group wears themselves out, and the next night you've got a whole new group of them.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
You know, like, it just depends on who's the strongest, who's able to actually get in contact with anybody.
Right.
I think.
And that was a thing that came up sort of at the end of the investigation when we were at Moon River, somewhere towards the end. I was talking with one of the guys that was there, and we were talking about places that get investigated to death, basically.
Right.
And he was saying, you know, he feels like, well, there used to be a lot of things happening in this one spot in Savannah, but nothing really happens. It doesn't seem to happen anymore in the frequency, especially, or in the intensity that it used to. And he was saying, you know, you think that maybe just because there are all these tourists who are coming in and all these people who are doing it over and over, they just decided to go somewhere else, basically vacate. And I can't say that that's not possible, but I don't think it's very reasonable to think that that is why something is not having as much activity, because look at the antique shop as a perfect example.
Yeah.
Every night that I went in there with the group, I got something. And some nights it could have been very, very slow, and then other nights I got full-on recordings 15 minutes long of, like, chatter in the background of kids,
yeah.
you know, constant. And it was the same with equipment. Sometimes it would, you know, set them off as soon as we were walking in the door, and it was boom, boom, boom the whole time we were in there. And then sometimes, you know, there was just a flicker of something here or there. The light would turn off on its own, or, you know, just occasionally something like that. So that was a place that saw groups coming from all over the country. You know, tour groups going in there multiple times every single night of the week.
Yeah.
All that, and there was still activity going on
And
a constant basis.
I think with that one, it actually got worse towards the end when there
really
was
did.
nothing in there. So, I mean,
Once they removed the antiques from that shop and that was empty in there, it became crazy. Like, things running up the wall and across the ceiling.
it was like everything good and bad was pissed.
Yeah, it really was. And they just tore the building down that was attached next door to that, too, which was also a historic building. So it really, really got bad. You know, people getting physically attacked, getting sick, passing out, things like that, too.
Okay, with that, say the building next door got knocked down. Do you think the ghosts would just, like, pick up with their bags and are like, all right, cool, we're moving next door? Or do you think they, like, still hang out, like, right in that area? I mean, I know that they can go wherever they please.
Right.
But, I mean, if that was their place that they chose and it got torn down.
Right. And that, I think a lot of it, not taking into account residual hauntings, I think a lot of that did probably have an effect on it, because there were all these antiques that were brought in, first of all, that had God knows what attached to them.
Yeah.
And then, so that's attracting more things into that building on top of that because of the stuff that's being brought in. And then the theories that there was actually a portal in the building itself where spirits always came and went, sort of like a doorway always open there. That once all those antiques got moved out, that attracted everything to begin with. plus the building next door, which more than likely also had activity going on in it when it was demolished, then it probably pissed off whatever was there, because who knows why they chose to stay there. It could have been because that was their shop or something for their life. And then suddenly it's gone. So they've got to react in some way, which I think that would later on could be what feeds into residual haunts and haunted locations, because now another structure will one day be built on top of that, and whatever activity's happening there could just be left over from what has always been happening there.
Right. That goes back to my, just because it's a new building doesn't mean it's not haunted.
Exactly. Yep.
It's because of what it's what you're building it on.
Yeah, and we see that all the time, and the whole idea of being built on burial grounds of any sort, that sort of thing, or any sacred land and stuff too.
Right.
So.
But yeah, I guess I'm pretty much out of questions for the night. I guess.
You guess?
I guess.
I really, and we talked about this, but now that this is part of the podcast, on our trip back from Savannah the other day, we talked continuously, discussing things like this and stuff. So maybe here in the future, I'm going to start just carrying around a recorder with me, so that when that starts happening, you're going to have a Westgate on the go podcast, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm much more interesting on the go.
Yeah, because and that's the thing. It's like sometimes we'll sit down and we'll have a list of things that we want to go over and stuff, and then we start talking. We're like, yeah, But then when we're not even thinking about it, when it's spontaneous, that's when we get the gold. So
always.
And I think that would have had to have been split up into 2 podcasts, unless people wanted to sit there and listen to us ramble for 2+ hours all at once.
Yeah.
Which, there are podcasts out there that do that, 2, 3, sometimes even 4-hour long podcasts. You can listen to like Coast to Coast, and that, that plays 4 or 5 hours every night, and they make, their radio program available as a podcast later on. If you subscribe to them, you can download it and stuff. But that is basically what you would consider like a 4-hour podcast, so to speak. But it's been going on for, decades now. So
I barely have the attention span for an hour. Y'all don't want a 4-hour one. There's only God only knows what y'all would get from that.
It would turn into pure chaos. Because when we start talking and we just venture off onto these tangents, and we're like, how the hell did we even get to where we're at now? Because one thing leads into another thing, and then we start talking about commercials we're seeing on TV and just random stuff. So
it's all good. It's all entertaining.
It is all entertaining.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on Instagram, Westgate Paranormal, and on Facebook.
Yes, Westgate Paranormal. Anywhere you find it online, more than likely it's going to be us. You can also email us at westgateparanormal@gmail.com, and we will reply promptly.
What's your YouTube? Because you were talking about your Ripley's investigation, so that if people want to go look at that video, they can.
I have shared it in the videos on Facebook. I believe I've even linked back to my YouTube on Facebook for Westgate Paranormal, but if you just search either my name, Eric Desad, Aeryck, or to go directly to my channel, my username for YouTube is Wedgelock, spelled phonetically. It's WEDJLOK. So you can search for that on YouTube and find my videos there. I do have the clips from that, as well as some others, and then we'll be putting some more up too. That's what I think I want to do with some of the EVPs.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Well, not really even the EVPs, the actual Echovox sessions from Moon River.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so what I plan on doing with that is basically taking some of the pictures of the inside of the building from when we were doing the investigation. Basically, you're going to see a lot of, just the interior empty room and stuff, because I am not publishing photos with public the people who are in the public investigating with us,
right,
just for, their own privacy purposes. And what I plan on doing is basically taking those pictures and throwing it into a video with the Echovox sessions. And so I'll put that up on YouTube when it becomes available like that, once I sit down and put it all together.
Awesome.
So I probably won't even narrate it. I'll probably just put it into a video. And
that's
throw
what
it
I
on
would do.
there. So people can listen to the clips, and I'll make it short, and you won't have to listen to me babble like I'm doing now. So anyway, thank you all for a podcast again. Apologize profusely about how we've kind of had a lag here. Also, if you're in the Savannah, Georgia or St. Augustine area and you want a awesome tour of the paranormal sites, as well as seeing actual evidence from the sites that we take you to during our walking tours, from our own personal investigations, whether they be audio EVP clips, pictures, video clips, go to afterlifetours.net and pick your city, Savannah, Georgia, or St. Augustine, Florida. If you pick St. Augustine, Florida, you will have yours truly as your tour guide. Currently, I'm doing it every day except Monday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. It's about an hour and a half walking tour, and I will take you through the oldest parts of the oldest city in the United States and tell you some of the history and show you a lot of evidence and debunk a lot of local urban legends.
Rad.
So, thanks again, y'all. Until next time, this is Eric and Amanda with Westgate Paranormal Podcast.